I was sitting in my car when I realized I couldn't hear anything except the thumping of my own heart. My name's Ryan. I'm 29, and until last weekend, I thought my family and I were, if not close, at least functional. I guess I should have seen it coming. There were always little signs, but nothing prepared me for what went down when my wife and I announced we were expecting our first child. To really explain what happened, I need to paint a picture of my family. My parents are the type who love appearances more than anything. The holidays have always been Instagram-worthy affairs, the perfect family, act on full display for neighbors and extended relatives. My sister, Emma, is 2 years younger than me, and she's always been the golden child. You know the type, straight A student, cheer captain, parents bragging about her every move like she was royalty. Me? I was more of the quiet, keep my head down kid. I did fine in school, got a decent job in IT, bought my own house, stayed out of trouble. But somehow, that never seemed to count as much. The favoritism used to be subtle. Emma got the bigger bedroom, the later curfew, the extra spending money for clothes. I got told to be grateful. When I graduated college, they took me out for dinner at Olive Garden. When Emma graduated, they rented out a venue and invited 50 people for a catered brunch. I rolled my eyes but let it go. I've always tried to be the bigger person, keep the peace. Fast forward to last year, Emma got married. My parents practically went bankrupt trying to make it the wedding of the century. Custom invitations, live band, photo booths, open bar, even a horse-drawn carriage for her entrance. I was happy for her, really. But part of me couldn't help noticing that when I got married 2 years before that, my parents gave us a $200 check and said, "This should help." I shrugged it off then, telling myself not to keep score. But apparently, they were. A few months ago, Emma announced she was pregnant. I swear I have never seen my parents so excited. They threw her a gender reveal party with balloon arches, a dessert table, professional photographers, the works. Then they posted about it on Facebook like they'd just won the lottery. Finally, our first grandbaby. The start of the next generation. They bought Emma and her husband a brand new crib, stroller, car seat. Even paid for them to take a baby moon trip to Greece. My wife and I were happy for them, though we couldn't help but joke privately about how over the top it all was. Then came last weekend. My wife, Jenna, and I had just had our 12-week ultrasound, and we were thrilled. The timing was perfect. Emma's pregnancy had already been the center of attention for months, and we thought it would be nice to share our news while the family was still in baby mode. We were naive enough to think they'd be just as happy for us. So we invited everyone over for dinner at my parents' house. I can still see Jenna's nervous smile as we set the ultrasound picture on the table and told everyone, "We're expecting two." For a moment, there was silence. I thought maybe they were processing. Then my mom let out this long sigh and said, "Oh great, another kid." My dad chuckled under his breath. Emma smirked and said, "Guess he just knocked her up for the gifts." Everyone laughed, like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Jenna's face went pale, and her eyes filled with tears. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I tried to keep my voice calm when I asked, "So, nothing for our child? No congratulations? Not even a hug?" My mom rolled her eyes and said, "Stop making drama. This is our house. If you don't like it, you can leave." My dad nodded, looking annoyed, like we were ruining dinner by existing. Emma leaned back in her chair, smug, and added, "Not everything has to be about you, Ryan." That was it for me. I stood up, took Jenna's hand, and said, "We're done here." We walked out, leaving the ultrasound photo on the table. I could hear my dad mutter something about me being overly sensitive as the door closed behind us. That night, Jenna cried herself to sleep. I just sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling this mix of anger and heartbreak that I didn't know what to do with. These were supposed to be the people we celebrated with. Instead, they turned what should have been one of the happiest days of our lives into a humiliation. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe we just go low contact, raise our baby without them, and stop trying to win approval that we're clearly never going to get. But then, the next morning, my phone started buzzing. 24 missed calls, voicemails, texts, all from my mom, dad, even Emma. "It's urgent. Please pick up. Ryan, you need to call us back right now." My stomach dropped. Part of me wanted to ignore them out of spite. Part of me was curious. Whatever it was, it clearly wasn't good, and it felt like for once, they needed me. When I finally worked up the nerve to look through the missed calls, My stomach was in knots. The last time my family had been this desperate to get a hold of me was years ago when my dad had a medical emergency. I sat at the kitchen table, thumb hovering over the call button, trying to decide if I even wanted to deal with whatever was happening. Jenna walked in, still puffy-eyed from crying, holding a mug of tea. "Are you going to call them back?" she asked softly. I just shook my head at first. I don't know if I can stomach it right now. Not after last night. We sat there in silence until my phone buzzed again. This time it was my sister calling over FaceTime. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma's face filled the screen, and she looked shaken. I'd never seen her that pale. "Ryan, thank God. Listen, you have to come over to Mom and Dad's right now. Please." She was talking so fast I had to tell her to slow down. "What happened?" I asked, already bracing myself for something dramatic. Look, I can't explain over the phone. Just please get here. Everyone's here." Part of me wanted to hang up right there, but there was this tiny piece of me that still cared, still felt responsible for this family, no matter how they treated me. I told Jenna, "You don't have to come if you don't want to." But she surprised me by putting on her coat and saying, "No. If we're doing this, we're doing it together." When we pulled up to my parents' house, there were already 3 cars in the driveway: my parents', Emma's, and my uncle's. The curtains were drawn, but I could see silhouettes moving around inside. The air was heavy, tense. When we stepped in, everyone turned to look at us at once. The living room was dead silent except for the sound of my mom's anxious pacing. She stopped when she saw me and immediately started talking, words spilling out like water from a burst pipe. "It's the baby shower," she blurted. "The venue called this morning. They said the final payment bounced. Something about the card being declined, and now they're saying if we don't settle the balance by tonight, they'll cancel the whole thing." I blinked at her, stunned. "Wait, you threw a party so big you couldn't even pay for it?" My dad bristled. "It's not that we can't pay. There was some mix-up with the account. You know how these banks are." Emma looked on the verge of tears. "Ryan, you don't understand. This is supposed to be tomorrow. We sent out the invites. We have people flying in. If this gets canceled, it'll be humiliating." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything they had said to me the night before, they were now panicking about saving face for Emma's party? I exchanged a look with Jenna, who gave me a barely there shake of her head as if to say, "Don't jump in yet. Listen first. So what does this have to do with me?" I asked slowly. My mom clasped her hands together in a way that made her look almost pleading. "We need someone who can pay the venue today to keep the reservation secure. Just until the bank clears things up." My dad added gruffly, "You've always been responsible with money. We figured maybe you could front it." There it was. The real reason for all the missed calls. Not because of some family emergency. Not because they were worried about me or Jenna. Because they needed my wallet. I felt a strange calm wash over me. Maybe it was anger, maybe clarity. "So let me get this straight," I said carefully. "Last night you told us our baby wasn't worth celebrating. You told us to leave your house if we didn't like it. You laughed at my wife. And now you want me to pay for a party for Emma?" My sister's face went red. "It's not just for me," she snapped. "It's for the whole family. For the baby." My mom chimed in. "Ryan, don't be petty. This is bigger than whatever grudge you're holding." My dad sighed heavily, as if I were a difficult child rather than a grown man. "Can't you put your feelings aside just this once and do what's right?" The room was spinning. I couldn't decide if I wanted to laugh or scream. Jenna reached over and put her hand on my knee, grounding me. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. "Do what's right," I repeated slowly. "You think what's right is me bailing you out while you treat my wife like trash?" No one said anything. My uncle, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, cleared his throat and muttered, "He's got a point." My dad shot him a look that could kill, but didn't say anything. I stood up. "You know what? I think we're done here. Jenna and I have a baby to prepare for, and we've got plenty to focus on without getting dragged into your drama." My mom looked like she was about to cry. "Ryan, please. You're going to let your niece's first big celebration get ruined because of a fight." I stared at her for a long moment. "No, Mom," I said softly. "You're the ones who ruined this. We just finally noticed." Then I turned and walked out, Jenna right behind me. No one tried to stop us this time. The whole house was silent except for Emma's choked little sob as we shut the door. On the drive home, Jenna reached over and took my hand. "You okay?" she asked. I let out a shaky laugh. "No, but I think I will be." There was a strange sort of power in finally standing my ground. But I had no idea what was coming next, because by the time we got home, there were even more missed calls. And one message that made my blood run cold. If you don't come back and fix this, we'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned the family in their time of need. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling that calmness start to harden into something else entirely. Something sharper. Because if they wanted to play this game, they had no idea who they were dealing with. And that was the moment I realized things were about to get very, very interesting. I sat there in our quiet living room, the weight of that last message pressing on me like a stone. Abandon the family in their time of need. The words made my jaw clench. They twisted everything, made me the villain in a story where I'd been the one humiliated first. Jenna sat across from me on the couch, clutching a throw pillow against her stomach like a shield. What did they say? She asked. I handed her the phone. She read the message, her face unreadable, then looked up at me. Ryan, they're threatening you. I nodded. Yeah, they are. The thing is, I'd spent my whole life being the peacemaker, the one who swallowed his pride for the sake of keeping things smooth. But there's something about watching your wife cry herself to sleep that rewires your brain. My family had taken that one step too far, and now they were trying to paint me as the bad guy to everyone we knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every slight, every dismissive comment, every time my parents had made me feel small while putting Emma on a pedestal. The graduation brunch, the wedding fiasco, the endless, why can't you be more like your sister, comparisons. And now this, the ultimate insult. Jenna's soft breathing beside me was the only thing that kept me from completely spiraling. Around 3 a.m., I got up and went into my office. I sat down at my desk, turned on my computer, and started pulling up old bank records. See, there was something my family had conveniently forgotten. Over the years, I'd been the one quietly helping them when things got tight. When my dad's hours were cut back in 2020, I loaned them $8,000 to help with the mortgage. When Emma was in college, I co-signed a loan so she could study abroad. When Mom's car broke down last year, I paid for half the repairs because she said she couldn't swing it. None of that had ever been repaid, not even acknowledged. By the time the sun started coming up, I had a spreadsheet that would make an accountant proud. Every dollar I'd lent them, every time I'd helped them out of a bind, with dates and amounts. Looking at it all laid out like that made my blood boil. They had the nerve to call me selfish? At breakfast, Jenna found me still at the computer. You've been up all night? She asked gently. I nodded, rubbing my eyes. I needed to see it all laid out. I needed to remind myself I'm not crazy. I turned the screen so she could see. She skimmed the spreadsheet, her eyes widening. Ryan, this is thousands of dollars. Exactly, I said, my voice tight. And they still treat me like I've never done a single thing for them. Before I could say more, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a group message from my parents and Emma. Mom, Ryan, we really need to settle this before tomorrow. Everyone is asking questions. Please don't make this worse. Dad, it's not about the money. It's about family showing up for each other. Emma, honestly, if you let this party get canceled, don't bother coming around once the baby's born. I won't let my child be around that kind of negativity. Jenna read the texts over my shoulder. Wow, she whispered. They're doubling down. I felt something in me harden. Then maybe it's time I stop trying to keep the peace. Maybe it's time they see what it looks like when I stop letting them walk all over me. That day was a blur. I worked from home, but barely got anything done. My phone kept buzzing with more messages, some guilt-tripping, some passive-aggressive, some outright angry. At one point, my dad left a voicemail saying, "Son, I raised you better than this. Don't embarrass the family. People are expecting a party tomorrow. If you let this get ruined, you'll regret it." I stared at the phone for a long time after that. Regret? What was there left for me to regret? The damage was already done. That evening, Jenna suggested we go for a walk to clear our heads. The air was cool, the streets quiet except for the occasional passing car. What do you want to do? She asked after a few minutes of silence. I kicked at a loose pebble on the sidewalk, thinking, I want to do what's right for us for once. I'm done being their doormat. They've made it clear what I mean to them. I think it's time they find out what it feels like when I'm not there to clean up their messes. Jenna squeezed my hand. Then do it, she said softly. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. When we got back home, I sat down and wrote a long message to my parents and Emma. I kept it calm, almost formal. I've thought a lot about what happened last night and everything you've said since. It's clear that you don't respect me, my wife, or our child. I will not be paying for Emma's baby shower or helping with any other expenses. If that means the party is canceled, so be it. I suggest you take this as a moment to reflect on how you've treated us. Until I see genuine change, we will be limiting contact for the sake of our own peace. I hit send, turned off my phone, and sat there in silence. It didn't take long. Less than an hour later, there was furious knocking at the door. Jenna and I exchanged a look. I got up, heart pounding, and opened it to find my dad standing there, red-faced. "Are you out of your mind?" he hissed, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "You're going to let your sister be humiliated tomorrow because of your pride?" "My pride?" I shot back. "You mean the pride you stomped on last night when you mocked my wife and laughed at our baby news?" "That was a joke," he snapped. "You're too sensitive." Jenna appeared behind me, arms crossed. "That joke made me cry myself to sleep," she said quietly. My dad froze, as if realizing for the first time that Jenna was actually affected. But then his jaw tightened. "Look, I'm sorry if you were upset, but we don't have time for this right now. Are you going to pay or not?" I stared at him for a long moment, then shook my head. "No." His face darkened. "Fine, but don't come crying to us when you've burned every bridge in this family." He turned on his heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Jenna exhaled shakily. Well, that went about as expected. I sank down onto the couch, adrenaline still coursing through me. "This isn't over," I said quietly. "They're not going to let this go. And honestly, I'm not sure I want them to. I think it's time I stopped playing defense." That night, as we got ready for bed, my mind was racing. I kept thinking about all the times I'd bailed them out, all the leverage I had without even realizing it. My family thought they could guilt me into submission because that's what had always worked before. But tomorrow was going to be different. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was full again. Calls, texts, even messages from cousins and family friends. Word had clearly spread. People were concerned, disappointed, even ashamed. Emma had apparently posted something vague on Facebook about certain family members ruining what should have been a special day. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. If they wanted to take this public, then maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. And as that thought settled in, I felt the anger in my chest shift into something colder, sharper. This wasn't just about a party anymore. This was about years of being treated like the lesser child. About finally drawing a line in the sand. Because if my family wanted a war, I was starting to think I might just give them one. And that's exactly when the phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. Something told me this call was going to change everything. The phone kept ringing, each chime a little sharper, a little more insistent, like it knew I was hesitating. I let it go to voicemail, but whoever it was called back immediately. Jenna was sitting across from me at the breakfast table, her spoon hovering above her cereal. "You should answer," she said, her voice calm but firm. I swiped to accept the call and put it on speaker. "Ryan." It was a woman's voice, professional, clipped, unfamiliar. "This is him." "This is Allison from Brookwood Events," she said, naming the venue my parents had rented for Emma's baby shower. My stomach sank. I already knew what was coming. "I've been trying to get a hold of your parents this morning," she continued. "I'm calling because we haven't received the remaining payment for tomorrow's event. Per your contract, if we don't have confirmation by 5 p.m. today, we'll have to release the space." I could hear Jenna trying not to laugh at the timing. "I think you're looking for my parents," I said slowly. "I am," Allison replied. "But they said you might be handling the payment?" I almost laughed out loud. "No," I said simply. "I won't be." There was a pause on the line. "Then I'm afraid the event will be canceled." "Do what you need to do," I said, then hung up. Jenna stared at me, wide-eyed. "That's it. You're letting it go." I leaned back in my chair, thinking. "I'm letting them face the consequences of their choices," I said. "If they cared more about keeping the party than about humiliating us, they would have apologized by now. They've had plenty of chances." But if I thought that would be the end of it, I was wrong. By noon, my phone was exploding again. Calls, texts, even a few angry DMs from relatives I barely spoke to. Emma had apparently posted a long, tearful rant on Facebook about being abandoned by her own brother a day before the most important moment of her life. There were comments pouring in, sympathy flooding toward her, and a few passive-aggressive ones clearly aimed at me. "See what she's doing?" Jenna said, scrolling through the comments on her phone. She's already spinning this to make you look like the villain. I clench my fists. Then maybe it's time everyone sees the whole story. I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet I'd made with every dollar I'd ever lent or spent on my family's behalf, and took a screenshot. I posted it in response to Emma's post with a single caption. Funny how I was a good brother when I was paying for your loans, your trips, and even part of Mom's car repair. But the second I say no, suddenly I'm abandoning the family. Within minutes, the comments section exploded. Half the family was suddenly very quiet. A few cousins messaged me privately, saying they had no idea I'd been supporting my parents financially for years. My uncle even chimed in publicly. I can confirm this is true. Ryan has been helping them for a long time. Emma deleted her post within the hour, but the damage was done. The perfect Golden Girl image had cracked. That afternoon, I got a text from my dad. We need to talk. Come over tonight. No yelling. Just a conversation. I showed Jenna. Do we go? She hesitated. If we do, we go together. And we don't let them steamroll you this time. So that evening, we drove to my parents' house. The air felt thick as we walked up the driveway. Inside, my mom was sitting on the couch, wringing her hands, and my dad was standing by the window. Emma sat in the corner, arms crossed, looking like she'd been crying, but also like she was ready for a fight. Thanks for coming, my dad said stiffly. Let's cut to the chase, I said, keeping my voice calm. You wanted to talk? My mom started. Ryan, you humiliated your sister today, posting private financial information online. How could you do that to family? I almost laughed. Private? You mean the money you never paid back? The money you acted like I never gave? I'm done keeping secrets so you can keep up appearances. Emma jumped in. You didn't have to make it public. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Embarrassing? I said, my voice rising despite myself. You publicly shamed my wife and me last night. You mocked our child before it's even born. And when I stood up for myself, you tried to make me the villain to the entire family. You embarrassed yourself, Emma. The room went quiet. My dad finally spoke, his voice low. Son, we just wanted to make sure Emma felt celebrated. You know she's been through a lot. I stared at him in disbelief. So have we. But that doesn't give you the right to treat us like second-class citizens in this family. My mom's lip trembled. For the first time, I thought she might actually cry. We just wanted everyone to be happy, she whispered. Well, congratulations, Jenna said sharply from beside me. Because now everyone is miserable. My dad rubbed his face and sank into a chair. What do you want from us, Ryan? That question hung in the air like smoke. For years, I'd have given anything just to be treated equally, to get a pat on the back or a word of praise. But something had shifted in me since last night. I didn't want scraps of approval anymore. I wanted respect. I want you to admit you were wrong, I said finally. Not just to me, but to Jenna. And I want you to stop treating Emma like she's the only one who matters. We're about to give you another grandchild, whether you like it or not. That child will not grow up feeling unwanted just because you can't be bothered to show up. Emma scoffed. So this is about control now? No, I said, meeting her gaze. It's about boundaries. Something you clearly don't understand. No one spoke for a long moment. Then my dad said, well, think about it. That was all I needed to hear. Take all the time you need, I said, standing. But until you figure it out, Jenna and I are stepping back. Don't call, don't text. When you're ready to treat us like equals, you know where to find us. I turned and walked out. This time, Jenna didn't just follow. She slipped her hand into mine and squeezed. On the drive home, I felt a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my chest. But underneath that relief, there was still a simmering anger. This wasn't over. They still hadn't taken real responsibility. When we got home, I opened my laptop again and started writing. This time not a spreadsheet, but a letter. I didn't know yet who I was going to send it to, but I knew it needed to exist. A full accounting of everything that had happened. A line in the sand. Because deep down, I had a feeling my parents weren't done trying to pull me back into their mess. And when they did, I wanted to be ready. And sure enough, the next morning, there was an envelope on our doorstep with my name on it. And inside was something that made my heart stop. The envelope was plain, no return address, my name written in my mother's looping handwriting. For a moment, I just stared at it, half expecting it to explode in a cloud of guilt and obligation. Jenna stood beside me, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Are you going to open it? She asked. I swallowed hard and nodded, tearing it open carefully. Inside was a single folded sheet of stationery. My mom's perfume clung to the paper, that same scent I'd known since childhood, the one that used to mean safety, comfort. Now it just made my stomach twist. I unfolded it slowly, my eyes scanning the neat script. Ryan, we're all still very upset about how things went the past few days. Your father and I have been up all night talking. We know emotions are high, but what you did, posting about money online, was cruel. People are asking questions, and it's embarrassing for us. Your uncle called last night, and he said you sounded angry. We just don't want this family to be divided forever. Please come by tonight so we can make this right before the baby shower tomorrow. Bring Jenna too. We need to talk about the future. About the babies. We can still fix this if you stop being stubborn. Love. Mom. I read it twice, my jaw clenching tighter with every line. Fix this if you stop being stubborn. I repeated aloud, the words bitter on my tongue. So it's still my fault. Jenna took the letter from me, read it, and sighed. This isn't an apology, she said quietly. This is them trying to get you back under control before tomorrow. I nodded, my thoughts spinning. Exactly. They don't care about us. They care about their reputation. They care about making sure tomorrow goes off without a hitch so no one sees the cracks in their perfect family act. For the rest of the morning, I paced the living room, letter in hand, thinking about what to do. Part of me wanted to burn the letter, cut them off entirely, and never look back. But another part of me, the part that had spent years trying to keep the peace, knew I couldn't just let this go. If I walked away now, they'd spin the story however they wanted. Emma would play the victim, my parents would smooth things over with relatives, and Jenna and I would end up looking like the selfish ones. I think we should go, I said finally. Jenna's eyebrows shot up. Go? After everything they've said? Yes, I said, the decision settling in my chest like a weight. Not for them. For us. Because if we don't face them now, they'll never stop trying to drag us back into this. We need to make it crystal clear where we stand. That evening, as the sun was setting, we drove back to my parents' house. The tension in the air was thicker than ever. The driveway was full again. Emma's SUV, my parents' sedan, even my grandmother's car. Apparently, this had become a full-blown family summit. When we walked in, everyone was already gathered in the living room. My grandmother was perched on the edge of the armchair, her lips pressed into a thin line. My dad stood near the mantel, arms crossed. My mom was on the couch next to Emma, who looked as if she'd been crying for hours, though I wasn't sure how much of it was for sympathy and how much was genuine. Ryan, my mom said softly. Jenna, thank you for coming. I didn't sit down. Neither did Jenna. You said you wanted to talk? I said evenly. My dad cleared his throat. We want to put this behind us. Tomorrow is important for the whole family, not just Emma. Can't we all come together for one day? One day, I repeated slowly, my voice rising just enough to fill the room. One day where you pretend nothing happened. One day where Jenna and I smile through gritted teeth while everyone congratulates Emma and ignores our baby. One day where you sweep this all under the rug and go back to treating us like second-class citizens in this family. Emma sniffled loudly. Why do you have to make everything about you? This is supposed to be my moment. Jenna stepped forward then, her voice calm but steady. You know what's funny, Emma? When we found out we were pregnant, we didn't think of it as our moment. We thought of it as a celebration for the whole family. But when we told you, you made a joke about Ryan only getting me pregnant for gifts. Do you know how small that made me feel? How unwelcome. Emma's eyes flickered with something. Guilt. Maybe, but just for a second before she rolled them. It was a joke. Then you need better jokes, Jenna shot back. My grandmother spoke for the first time then, her voice sharp as a knife. Enough of this bickering. Ryan, your parents have done their best for you. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but family is family. Are you really going to throw it all away over hurt feelings? I turned to look at her slowly. Grandma, do you know how much money I've given Mom and Dad over the years? How many times I've bailed them out quietly, no questions asked? She blinked, clearly surprised. No. I pulled out my phone, opened the spreadsheet, and handed it to her. That's every dollar. Every single one. And do you know how many times they've thanked me? Once. Maybe twice. The rest of the time, they act like it never happened. And now they're asking me to pay for a party I wasn't even invited to plan, after laughing at me and telling me to leave their house. The room went dead silent. My grandmother looked at the phone, then at my parents. Is this true? She asked quietly. My mom's face went pale. Ryan, we didn't ask you to keep track. That's not an answer, my grandmother snapped. My dad finally spoke, his voice low and tight. It's true, he admitted. The silence after that was suffocating. My grandmother shook her head. I don't even know what to say. I took my phone back and slid it into my pocket. You don't have to say anything. Because I'm done talking. You want tomorrow to happen? Figure it out without me. You want me to show up and play nice? That ship has sailed. I turned to leave, but my dad's voice stopped me. If you walk out now, don't expect to be welcome tomorrow. Or anytime soon. I looked back at him, meeting his glare head on. Then I guess I won't be seeing you soon, I said quietly. And with that, Jenna and I walked out again. The night air hit me like a wall, but for the first time in days, I felt strangely clear-headed. On the drive home, Jenna reached over and took my hand. That was intense, she said softly. Yeah, I admitted. But it needed to be said. When we got home, there was another envelope on the porch. This one slid under the door while we were gone. Inside was something I hadn't expected, a copy of my parents' will. And next to my name, scrawled in my dad's handwriting, were 3 words that made my blood run cold. This can change. I sat down hard, the letter shaking in my hands. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Jenna knelt next to me, reading over my shoulder. Ryan, she said softly, they're threatening to cut you out. I looked at her, my jaw tightening, my anger shifting from a slow burn to something sharp and electric. No, I said, my voice calm but cold. They just gave me more leverage than they realize. Because if they thought they could control me with threats, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. And that was the moment the idea began to take shape. An idea that would not just level the playing field, but tip it completely in my favor. I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, the copy of the will spread out in front of me. My dad's scrawled note, "This can change," stared back at me like a challenge. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I just let the quiet wrap around me, heavy and oppressive. Jenna sat across from me, watching me carefully, like she was afraid I might explode. Finally, I laughed, a short, humorless sound that made Jenna flinch. You know what this means, right? I said, tapping the paper with one finger. They think this is my price. That all they have to do is dangle some inheritance over my head, and I'll fall back in line. Jenna frowned. Ryan, do you even care about the inheritance? I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. I used to. Not because of the money itself, but because it meant, I don't know, that they still considered me part of the family. But now, I gestured toward the will. Now it just feels like a leash. And I'm done being on a leash. I folded the will neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and set it aside. If they want to play games, fine. I can play too. The next day was supposed to be the baby shower. Social media was already buzzing with relatives posting travel selfies and tagging Emma, writing things like "so excited to celebrate the newest addition to the family," and "can't wait to see everyone tomorrow." I knew the party wasn't happening, unless someone had magically paid off the venue in the middle of the night, but no one had gone public about that yet. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was my cousin Laura, who lived 2 states away and had flown in for the event. I answered reluctantly. Ryan, she said immediately, what's going on? Everyone's saying there's a problem with the shower venue. There is, I said bluntly. It's canceled. She sounded stunned. Canceled? What? Because my parents couldn't pay the balance and then tried to guilt me into covering it. I said, my voice flat. When I said no, they decided to make me the bad guy instead of owning up to their mistake. Laura was silent for a moment. Then she let out a low whistle. Wow, they really told everyone this was on you. I just had Aunt Julie corner me at breakfast talking about how selfish you've gotten since you married Jenna. I felt my jaw tighten. Figures. Ryan, Laura said gently. I know we don't talk much, but I believe you. Honestly, I've always noticed how they treat you compared to Emma. It's messed up. If you want me to say something to the rest of the family, I will. Her words caught me off guard. It was the first time anyone outside of Jenna had openly acknowledged what I'd felt my whole life. Thanks, Laura, I said, my voice softer. I might take you up on that. After we hung up, Jenna came into the kitchen, holding her phone. You're going to want to see this, she said grimly, and handed it to me. Emma had posted a new status. Some people just love tearing down happy moments. Don't worry, everyone. We're still going to celebrate today, even if some family members try to ruin everything. There were already dozens of comments underneath, most of them sympathetic. People offering to help, asking for the new address. I could practically hear Emma basking in the attention, playing the victim. She's going to try to throw something last minute at Mom and Dad's house, I said slowly. Even if it's just cake and decorations in the backyard. She's not going to let her moment slip away. So what do we do? Jenna asked. I sat down, drumming my fingers against the table. We don't stop her, I said finally. We let them throw their little pity party. And then we make sure the truth comes out where everyone can see it. That afternoon, I went into my office and dug through old emails and bank statements. I found the confirmation receipts from the money I'd lent my parents, screenshots of the texts where they'd promised to pay me back as soon as possible. I even found the old messages from Emma begging me to co-sign that loan for her study abroad trip, telling me she'd be forever grateful. When I had everything together, I drafted a post. Not angry, not ranting, just factual. I laid out the timeline of events, from the night we announced our pregnancy to the baby shower payment issue. I attached the receipts, redacting sensitive information, but leaving just enough to prove I wasn't making anything up. Before I hit post, I showed it to Jenna. Are you sure about this? She asked, her voice careful. Yes, I said, because they've been controlling the narrative for too long. This time, people are going to hear our side before Emma spins it into something else. I scheduled the post to go live at 4 p.m., the exact time the original baby shower was supposed to start. When 4 o'clock rolled around, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Notifications poured in. Comments, shares, messages. Some relatives were shocked, some angry, some quietly supportive. My uncle texted me a simple, "Good for you." About time. But the real explosion came half an hour later when Emma posted a furious reply. Wow. Way to make everything about you, Ryan. Congratulations, you ruined my baby shower and humiliated our parents. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The comments under her post were already turning against her. People were asking why she hadn't apologized for mocking our pregnancy, why she was blaming me for a bill that wasn't mine to pay. Even a few of her friends chimed in, saying they were shocked at how mean-spirited the joke had been. That night, Jenna and I sat on the couch, scrolling through the chaos together. It's like watching a house of cards collapse, she said quietly. Yeah, I agreed, though there was no satisfaction in my voice yet. Not yet. But this isn't the end. They're not going to let this go. They're going to come back at me harder. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from my dad. You've made a fool of this family. We'll talk tomorrow. In person. I stared at the message, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. Good, I murmured. Let them come. Because by now, I had more than just receipts. I had a plan. And when they showed up tomorrow, I was going to make sure they finally understood that I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. Jenna must have seen the look in my eyes because she reached over, squeezed my hand, and said softly, "Whatever you're thinking, I'm with you. Just make sure you do it smart." I nodded, feeling that strange, electric clarity settle over me again. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about years of being treated like I was less. Tomorrow, I thought, was going to be the day everything changed. And as I sat there, refining my plan in my head, a new message came through from an unknown number, one that made my heart skip a beat. Ryan, you don't know me, but you need to hear what really happened with that payment. I stared at the screen, my pulse quickening. Whoever this was, they might have just handed me the missing piece I didn't even know I needed. The unknown number stared back at me like a blinking cursor. For a moment, I just sat there, my thumb hovering over the screen, my chest tightening. Jenna leaned over my shoulder. "Who is it?" she asked softly. "No idea," I muttered, my voice low. "But they know about the payment." Before I could overthink it, I texted back. "Who is this?" A moment passed, then another, and then 3 gray dots appeared. "My name's Tessa. I work at Brookwood Events. I was the one who called you yesterday about the payment." That made my pulse quicken. "I probably shouldn't be doing this," she continued, "but I saw what your sister posted online, and it bothered me. Your parents didn't just miss the payment. The card was declined because the account had been emptied the day before. By Emma's husband." I read the message twice, my brain working overtime. "Emptied? What do you mean emptied?" I typed back. This time she sent a longer reply. "I shouldn't have access to their account details, but I overheard your dad arguing with someone from the bank on speakerphone this morning. He was saying the balance had been drained for personal expenses, and that the funds wouldn't clear in time. It sounded like your brother-in-law made a big purchase without telling anyone. Your parents are blaming you because they don't want people to know they can't control their own finances. I set the phone down on the table, my hands shaking, not with fear, but with something sharper, more focused. Jenna watched me carefully. What did they say? I told her, reading the messages aloud. Her eyes widened with every word. So, the entire mess, all the guilt tripping, all the begging, was just them covering for Emma and her husband? I nodded slowly, a bitter laugh escaping me. Of course it was. They didn't just want me to fix their problem. They wanted me to do it quietly, so no one would ever know their golden daughter's husband blew through the family's money like a fool. Something in me clicked into place right then, like a puzzle piece I'd been missing my whole life. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. It was about power, about control. My parents weren't just playing favorites. They were actively rewriting reality to keep Emma blameless, no matter the cost. And now, finally, I had proof that their little empire of appearances was rotting from the inside out. I stared at the phone, then texted Tessa back. Thank you. You didn't have to tell me this, but you did. That means a lot. She replied quickly. I just thought you deserved to know. Good luck tomorrow. When I looked up, Jenna was watching me with that quiet intensity she gets when she knows I'm about to do something big. What's going through your head? She asked carefully. I leaned back in my chair, feeling oddly calm. Tomorrow, I said. They wanted to have a party to celebrate Emma and sweep all this under the rug. Instead, I think tomorrow might be the day we stop pretending. I spent the rest of the night planning. Not out of revenge. Not yet, but out of a need for truth. I pulled together the screenshots from Tessa's messages, compiled the timeline of when the account was emptied, and cross-referenced it with Emma's husband's social media posts. Sure enough, he'd posted a picture 2 days ago of some expensive new toy, an ATV, captioned, "Had to treat myself before the baby comes." Jenna looked over my shoulder and shook her head. This is perfect, she said. You don't even have to accuse him of anything. Just show people the facts and let them draw their own conclusions. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized that just posting online wasn't enough this time. No, if my parents wanted a meeting in person, then I was going to give them one. A very different kind of meeting than they were expecting. The next morning, I woke up early, showered, and put on a button-down shirt and slacks, the kind of outfit I only wore to work presentations or job interviews. Jenna did the same, pulling her hair back neatly, looking every bit the picture of calm resolve. This feels like we're going to court, she said with a small smile. In a way, we are, I said. Except this time, there's no judge. Just truth. When we arrived at my parents' house, the driveway was full again. It felt like déjà vu, but this time there was no nervousness in my chest, only a cold, steady focus. We walked up to the door together, Jenna's hand brushing against mine. Inside, the entire cast was waiting. My mom, my dad, Emma, her husband, even my grandmother again. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. You came, my mom said, standing up quickly. Yes, I said simply. You wanted to talk. So let's talk. My dad gestured to the couch. Sit. I didn't move. No, I'll stand. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Emma's husband cleared his throat. Look, Ryan, I think we've all let things get a little out of hand. I cut him off, pulling out my phone. Out of hand. You mean like draining the account that was supposed to pay for this whole circus, and then letting everyone blame me for the fallout? The room went still. Emma's head whipped toward her husband. What is he talking about? He stammered. I don't know what he means. Oh, you do, I said, swiping open the screenshot of Tessa's message and holding it up. I have confirmation from the venue staff. The card didn't just bounce because of some random bank error. It bounced because you spent the money the day before. On this. I held up another screenshot, his grinning selfie with the brand new ATV. Emma's face turned crimson. You didn't. I did, he snapped back defensively. We needed something fun before the baby comes. You used my parents' money. Emma shouted, her voice rising. You ruined my shower. Enough, my dad barked. But it was too late. The shouting had begun. My mom had her face buried in her hands. My grandmother was demanding explanations, and Emma was half crying, half yelling at her husband while he tried to justify himself. I stood there, silent, letting it all unfold. Jenna slipped her hand into mine, her grip firm. Finally, when the room had quieted to a low simmer, I spoke. Do you understand now? I said, my voice calm. Do you understand why I said no? Why I walked away? Because every time there's a mess, you expect me to fix it. Quietly. Invisibly. And every time I do, you go right back to treating me like I'm less than. I'm done cleaning up your disasters while being treated like an outsider. My mom finally looked up, her eyes wet. Ryan, she said softly. We were just trying to protect Emma. From what? I asked, my voice sharp now. From the consequences of marrying someone irresponsible? From reality? You didn't protect her. You enabled her. And then you tried to use me to cover it up. No one said anything. For the first time, I think they all realized just how much I'd been holding back over the years. This isn't just about a baby shower, I said quietly. This is about a lifetime of being treated like my accomplishments, my feelings, my family don't matter. That ends today. I turned and headed for the door. No one tried to stop me this time. Outside, the air felt fresher somehow, like a storm had just passed, even though I knew it hadn't. Not really. The storm was just beginning. Because inside that house, my parents and sister were being forced to sit with the truth for the first time in years. And I had a feeling that when they were done stewing, they were going to come back swinging. Which was fine by me. Because this time, I wasn't planning to just defend myself. This time, I was going to make sure that when the dust settled, everyone finally saw who had been holding this family together all along. And just as Jenna and I were getting into the car, my phone buzzed again. This time with a notification that someone had tagged me in a very public post. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Emma had just gone live on Facebook. And whatever she was about to say, I knew it was going to change everything again. When I opened the live stream, Emma's face filled my screen. Her eyes were red, and she looked more frazzled than I'd ever seen her. Hair loose, makeup streaked like she'd been crying. But she was still speaking clearly, voice carrying that same performative tone she'd used her whole life whenever she wanted to play the victim. To everyone who's been asking what happened with the baby shower, she began, I just want to say how hurt I am. My brother decided to turn a private family matter into a public spectacle. He humiliated us, dragged our family name through the mud, and ruined what should have been the happiest day of my life. I felt my jaw clench. Jenna, sitting in the passenger seat, put a hand on my arm before I could slam the phone shut. Wait, she said softly. Let her finish. Emma kept going. I didn't want to say this, but he's always been jealous of me. Our whole lives. Ryan has resented me for being close to mom and dad. This was his way of getting back at us, by making sure my baby shower was canceled and everyone knew about it. The comments were flying faster than I could read them. Some were supportive, but others were skeptical, pointing out that I'd posted proof of everything. A few even asked why she hadn't apologized for mocking our pregnancy. And then, without warning, Emma's husband popped into frame, looking furious. This is ridiculous, he snapped. You're all acting like Ryan's some kind of hero when he's just petty. Yeah, I bought something with the account, but that's because I knew he'd never step up. Somebody had to make sure our kid had something nice before he comes into this miserable family. Emma looked horrified. Why would you say that live? She hissed, slapping the phone out of his hand. The screen went dark as the stream abruptly ended. I just sat there in stunned silence for a moment before a slow, incredulous laugh bubbled out of me. Well, I said, I think that just did my job for me. By the time we got home, the video had been shared dozens of times. People were commenting things like, so it was the husband, and Ryan was right to say no. Even some of Emma's closest friends were calling her out in the comments, asking why she'd let the whole family pile on me when she knew the truth. That night, there was no frantic knocking at my door, no barrage of texts, just silence. And somehow, that silence was louder than anything. The next morning, I woke to a single message from my mom. Ryan, can you come over? Just you and Jenna. No one else will be here. Please. I showed it to Jenna, who sighed. Do you want to go? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I think it's time to finish this. When we arrived, the house was quiet. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. My dad was next to her, his expression grim but less angry than before. Ryan, my mom said softly. Jenna, thank you for coming. I sat down across from them, Jenna's hand in mine. You said you wanted to talk. My dad nodded. We owe you an apology. I blinked, caught off guard. I hadn't expected him to say it so directly. You were right, he continued. About everything. We've been unfair to you for years. We put Emma on a pedestal, and we took you for granted. And when this whole thing happened, We let our fear of embarrassment make us lash out at you instead of admitting the truth. That was wrong. My mom's voice was trembling as she spoke. I can't believe we let it get this far. We almost lost you over this. We don't want that. Not now. Not with the baby coming. Jenna squeezed my hand, and I felt my throat tighten. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. I just let the words sit there, tasting them. I appreciate the apology, I said finally. But this can't just be words. Things have to change. For real. My dad nodded. They will. We've already told Emma she's going to have to apologize, too, and pay back the money she and her husband took before we help them with anything else. That made my eyebrows shoot up. You actually told her that? Yes, my mom said, a flicker of steel in her voice I hadn't seen before. She wasn't happy about it, but she agreed. She's embarrassed, Ryan. And she should be. It wasn't everything. It wouldn't erase years of favoritism overnight, but it was something. It was the first time they had chosen accountability over appearances. When we left that day, I felt lighter than I had in months. Jenna smiled at me in the car. That was the first time I've ever heard your dad apologize for anything. Yeah, I said quietly, almost to myself. Me too. A week later, Emma sent us a text. It wasn't dramatic, no tears or excuses, just a simple message. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have joked about your pregnancy. I shouldn't have let everyone blame you. I hope someday you can forgive me. I showed it to Jenna, who nodded. It's a start. We didn't rush to reply. We didn't run back into the fold as if nothing had happened. But when our baby shower came a month later, hosted by Jenna's family, full of warmth and laughter and actual joy, my parents came. They were on their best behavior. They brought gifts. They congratulated Jenna sincerely. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we were on our way to having a family that didn't run on favoritism and manipulation. After everyone had left and Jenna was asleep, I sat alone in the nursery we'd been putting together piece by piece. I looked around at the tiny crib, the soft blankets, the shelves waiting to be filled with books, and I thought about the kind of father I wanted to be. I wasn't going to repeat the cycle. I wasn't going to make my child feel like they had to earn my love or that they were competing with anyone else for a place in this family. I smiled to myself, feeling that quiet sense of resolution settle in. My parents had tried to break me, but in the end, they'd given me something better than their approval: clarity. Clarity about who I was, what I stood for, and what I wanted for my own family. The next morning, I sent a final message to the family group chat. Jenna and I are moving forward. You're welcome to be part of our lives, but only if you treat us, and our child, with respect. No more guilt trips, no more playing favorites. Those days are over. No one argued this time. And as I stood there that night, hand resting on Jenna's growing belly, I realized that for the first time in my life, I felt completely at peace. Not because my parents had finally apologized, not because Emma had been forced to face consequences, but because I'd finally taken control of my own story and refused to give it back. It had taken a ruined baby shower, a family implosion, and 1,000 late-night thoughts. But in the end, we built something stronger, a future where my child would never doubt for a second that they were worth celebrating. And that, I thought as I turned off the light in the nursery, was the only legacy that really mattered.